So this is going to be part training journal, part review of camp and that whole crazy week I just had. Oh. A training buddy and I just went to the 2023 HME Milwaukee training camp. This was a slightly shorter camp, slightly shorter days, and it had a different focus than the other two camps that I've been to so far. But I think it was exactly what I needed to progress to the next small step of my training. I guess overall impression, first off, 10 out of 10, fantastic, would recommend. Ow. Kind of where that is. It was a different type of work, this camp, but it was a lot of work. The previous camps that were hosted by Adam Meisner were a lot of, well, the last camp, he called it shoulder camp. So it had a lot of shoulder stretches and a lot of things to open the shoulder. And boy, I was extremely tired every time I got back to the Airbnb and beer was calling my name. This time the focus really wasn't on opening up the body, it was on connecting everything. And I guess before I go any further, my general PSA, as always, these are my thoughts and opinions on what this training has done to me personally. Don't take this as a roadmap for your own personal training, and I'm not here to prove or disprove anything. This is just kind of a way for me to look back and mark at where I was, what little steps have gotten me a little bit further, and see who can relate. And I'm also not going to be giving away what we did as far as the specifics in training. That's kind of obvious, right? And I can get into generally what it did, but I'm not going to be trying to teach you guys how to do this. Up till that point, I had this nagging feeling that I felt disjointed in what I was doing. So whether it was standing posture or form, I was really trying my best to follow the instructions. And I had a few things that were out of alignment, which they really helped. They corrected a lot of good things on me. This camp had a good focus in that it filled the gap. It showed me at least one thing that I'm releasing towards, because it is based on release, on song, as they call it. But this put another thing into perspective of when you go to song, this should happen, and then this should happen, and this should happen, and here's how those things happen. Curtis he did go through a couple different stretches that I hadn't done before, and a couple other exercises, things that he does, but a lot of it was how to train. What are the little things that you're trying to coax out of your training? And how can you coax those out? How can you take this and utilize it in a way that's going to help you specifically in all these things? It was this whole thing, honestly, it seemed like a lot of what we went through was as if somebody was reading my mind of what is he missing in these things. And it felt like it was given to me on a platter. I mean, I had to bust my ass for it, don't get me wrong. But man, went there, and one of the first things he did was said, not enough people are in their feet. And if you've been watching any of these, you know that I've been really focusing on fixing that arch. This camp did more for my arch in a week than I've been able to make happen in the last month. But it was perfect because I've been building up to that. And now I'm more in my feet. I can feel more of my feet. The arch is better. The things are better aligned. I have so many good little details that I'm not going to share a bunch of them because, but I got specifics about knees and what the feet are doing and stepping, and oh man, it was so much good. It was so much good. And I'm getting now into the fascia work. When people talk about, silk reeling, and I can't remember what other terms I've heard just kind of tossed out there, but it's it's hard. It's really hard. But it's starting to already become a tool for me to help self-correct. And it's very, very fantastic. Now you might be wondering to yourself, why in the world is there the Terminator in the thumbnail? Curtis, as an instructor, first off, the guy's huge. The guy's a straight up monster. I'll put a picture of him up. The picture actually makes him look smaller than he really is. I don't know if he's like standing back or what the deal is, but when you see him in person, holy crap. And then you find out that he's really into boxing. He's a bit of a goofball. He's always cracking jokes. He's always simplifying things so far that you realize, oh, it's a couple of shapes, but I just can't do it right. There's a simple thing to do. It's just not easy to get there at all. It's in fact extremely, extremely difficult to do that simple thing. And so he focused on those simple things. Things like standing up. Things like bringing your arms up, bringing your arms out. How do you do that and follow the rules of Tai Chi? It's harder than you might think. And so we spent a lot of time on that. And he helped me develop that connection to a lot of things throughout my body that I was completely missing before. And I can feel it tugging and pulling. There seems to be more and more of a purpose behind my release than there ever was before. And I'm just really excited. So I did the Curtis camp. And on the following day after the camp was closed out, I think it was Thursday, we went to the local school. That's Jim Bayer's school. And we went there for his normal class, and then we came back for some one-on-one. And it is his normal class that I got some really good correction on things like hip alignment, just all sorts of good things, especially on skeletal structure. It was during that class, Jim Bayer's, that I almost felt bad because I felt like I was stealing him away from other people. There were quite a few people in that class, and I mean they're working really hard. So we're doing all these standing postures, and I can feel the effort in the air around me, and I can't see. I'm right in the front. I always put myself right in the front because I'm a greedy prick. And he would break me out of standing posture to then show me something, and what he showed me was very, very valuable, and I'm glad that he did. It made me feel kind of bad that I was pausing my exercise, the thing that's really quite painful, and almost given like a mild little break. But that wasn't the intent behind it that I could tell, unless I just looked that tired. But what he showed me was some really, really good stuff. And it helped me also tie more of this stuff together. It was kind of the perfect end cap for what we did at camp. Oh, Terminator in the thumbnail. Oh my god. I get sidetracked so hard and start talking about the Dark Warrior or some shit. So, rewind a little bit here. Curtis is a goofball. He goes off on tangents quite a bit, but in his New Zealand accent, Aussie accent, I can't tell the difference, man. Whatever. But he would talk about how the Tai Chi body works differently. And it's essentially a system of hydraulics. So instead of contracting things, things are expanding and dropping in certain ways to build up a hydraulic press. And then that exerts power. And I know that none of that makes sense for most people that hear that. It hardly makes sense to me, but I've felt it from other people, and in a tiniest fraction of myself, to where it makes about 0.5% sense to me. Yeah, that's kind of how it works. But in that, he equated the perfect Tai Chi body to the Terminator, because he's just robotic, everything is just hydraulics, and that's how it moves. It doesn't that shoulders don't come out of place. There's only so many different things it can do, and it can't twist. It's hydraulics. And he said, so the perfect Tai Chi body is essentially the Terminator. And he said, watch any of the fight scenes. They're the perfect Tai Chi technique. You just pick them up and throw them through the drywall, and then walk through the drywall to get to them. Like just, and of course he's like 6'5" or some shit, and he's just huge. So it fits. Like I could easily see him as the Terminator in a heartbeat. He gave us homework actually to go and watch the Terminator to study. He's like, just forget everything else. Just go home and watch the Terminator. There's your study for the night. So we did. We couldn't find it on the freaking Netflix and the Airbnb. So I had my cell phone. We propped it up on this little pillow, and we had a bunch of snacks. We had like chips and guacamole and just wine. You have to have wine after training. It's tradition at this point. And yeah, we watched the Terminator. And then when we got to our second Airbnb after Jim's class, we watched the second one. Just, to really got to study up. That's what it was. So you're studying. A lot of these exercises and these stretches were doing a lot already. And they were helping my posture, my skeletal alignment, getting muscle tissues to stretch so they wouldn't restrict my movement, things like that. And this just bumped it up another notch. And they told me some really good things about that stretch, and to be greedy about it and to get as much of it involved as you can. And like I said, I just got done training. I'm still pretty sweaty actually, but in a lot of the stretches, the ones that you're timed out for, and for those that know these stretches, I'm talking about like crucifix, yin yang palm, Greek god, I don't know what everybody else calls it, but I call it the doorway, things like that. Like some of the like really brutal shoulder ones. These stretches for me went from a lot of muscular things pulling to now this is involved. And I feel like it felt like I was a bag of bones and I'm stretching the bag. That's about the best things that I can make of that. I'm a bag of bones and I'm stretching that bag and I'm moving that bag, and it's it's a different monster. It really is. But it also helped my awareness, what they call ting. And so in maintaining certain aspects, certain conditions as they call them, I was able to find out what's in alignment, what's out of alignment, what's tight and I can't tell otherwise, and what's actually released. What's the quality of my release? Where is it releasing? Why is it releasing that way? Is my elbow flying up? Is my shoulder actually in place? Or my collarbone spread? Like there's so many things, but all that information comes from, what does that feel like? Oh, it feels off. It should be, and little things like that. And I wouldn't say it made standing easier. It still hurts like a son of a bitch. It's more of, it gave me more things to check. It gave me more things to experience in my body, which then kind of got my mind out of it more, which is really good for me. My mind is just kind of all over the place. It's a very, very chatty place. So to give kind of that monkey a banana and something else to just focus on and check and then feel what that feels like, that time actually went by pretty quick today. Oh my gosh. This is all just all over the place. I'm just word vomiting. I got pulled up for kind of demos a lot. Like I said, I'm kind of like a greedy prick when it comes to my training. I'm not a jerk about it or anything. I'm not pushing people out of the way, but I tend to, if there's a big group and then the instructor's up front, especially if there are mirrors, which there were this time, I'm gonna do my best to kind of carve out a spot for me right up front. Because I know if I'm doing something really wrong, they're gonna see it, they're gonna correct it. If I'm up front, I can see myself in the mirror. And if they're doing some kind of demo, I'm also close enough I can just see that. So it's kind of an ideal spot to be for me. So that also meant I got pulled up a lot for demos. And maybe it's just because I'm tight, I'm the karate man, right? So maybe they were picking on me. I don't really care, I loved it. And one thing that I just didn't expect about Curtis, when you see him, he's, like I said, he's huge. He's gargantuan, right? He has the most gentle touch. He wasn't about making a big display, about flinging people around. God knows how much power this guy has and how much he trains for this. And he was just gentle little touch, just really making everything not just efficient, but working the process so much that he got that good at the process. Because just like in karate, apparently adding the power is actually pretty easy. It's kind of how I conduct my kumite classes. When we go to spar each other to avoid a lot of injury, you're touching and retracting, because then to touch and then add a lot of power behind it is actually really simple. Some of the things that Jim was showing me then and then in his class, he wanted to show some of the mechanics, how they work, and I got to feel a lot of these. And they're not things that make physical sense to me yet, and that's okay, but they work. There was one, and without getting into, again, all the details, but he was in a position that there's no way you could out-muscle somebody. I mean, I tried. He pinned my arms in the same way. And so there's a certain position that he was in, and he had both of his wrists touching his body, and I pinned his wrists to him. And when I say pin, I mean, you're not moving your arms out. And that's what he was trying to do, is move his arms away from himself. And with me behind it in a braced position, holding steady. And he tried to first demonstrate with muscle, and of course, yeah, I can hold him down. You know, I got a lot of mass, decently strong. And then he did it the correct way. There was no holding him down. There was no keeping his wrist pinned. Nope. It was like it was like a gun went off and I went back. Just blink. And I mean, I went back, like up and back far, not just like a little, oh. No, I moved away from him outside of my own striking range. So it was just, yeah. And then I tried to recreate it, and I couldn't fucking do it. Maybe one day I will. And then another experience, I've kind of always wanted to get hit by one of these guys. I got maybe it's a death wish, I don't know. I know there are punches. I've heard people talk about getting hit. Kind of always wanted to feel it. And Jim gave me that on Thursday, and he just his arm, no hip behind it, not even shoulder behind it, like nothing behind his arm. He comes up and he's just hitting just kind of off to the side, you know, off to the side of the chest, and just like this. And I could feel just that thump of the weight of the arm, but there was nothing behind it. No stance, nothing. He was just standing there doing this, just like that fast too. And then on one of them, he put a lot of internal power, I mean a lot, if I'm being honest. He just put some internal power behind it. Didn't change anything, didn't know the same thing he was doing. And boom. I keep guessing, and I would say it was about 3.5 feet or so, because he was outside of my effective kicking range when I did land. And I do mean land, at least one of my feet left the ground. Probably both. And I remember having trouble catching my breath after he hit me. And I mean, for him, it was effortless, at least from what I could tell. But yeah, I went up and back like right now. There was no, it was insane. It was like what you see in Dragon Ball Z and shit. It's, oh. So that was a good humbling experience. But I'm really grateful that I got to experience that. I'm very, very grateful. I got a lot of good corrections just kind of all around. Everybody there, the people we were training with, the other students, are just fantastic people. I love seeing the same faces at some of these camps and catching up. And somebody gave me a ride in their Tesla. Thanks, Nick. Appreciate it. It's once again, it feels like I'm getting dropped off by the alien mothership back home. And I'm now amongst people that most people believe me because they know I don't just make crap up. But God, I feel so odd trying to explain it and tell what happened even. So thank you guys for bearing with me. There's so much more. There's so much more. I got shown Peng Ji Lu on, I think. There's one over. The names mess me up, man. I'm all about the Japanese names, and they're throwing these Chinese terms at me, and I kind of get them. But the different energies, and somebody showed me that, and I got to feel those. And yeah, Tai Chi, I don't know if I would describe Tai Chi as gentle. Like a riptide just sucked me in different directions is kind of what it felt like. More of these to come. I have some more really interesting videos on this subject matter, as well as some other just fun ones. I want to get back to just some fun screw around videos as well, because that's what this channel is at the end of the day, is I'm just having fun. As always, thank you to my Patreon supporters. I really, really appreciate it. So thank you guys. And thank you to everybody for any comments that you leave. You know, positive, supportive, neutral, combative. Thanks. I do appreciate it. If you guys are at all interested, subscribe, because boy, I got some fun stuff along the way. I never know how to end these things, man. Bye.